I'm Kristen Jarnigan. I'm President and CEO of Discover Long Island, and Discover Long Island is the official tourism promotion agency for the region. We represent both counties. In case you didn't know, tourism is a $6.1 billion industry and represents more than 100,000 jobs here on Long Island. I love seeing all the young faces in this room because that's what I think this panel is really about, is the future of Long Island. So I will tell you that I was supposed to be a panelist, just answering a couple of questions. My esteemed colleague Jamie Moore is out sick today, so I am filling in for him as the moderator, which is actually better for me because then I just get to put all the pressure on them, right? So I'm going to go through, and we are working on a condensed timeline. So what I would recommend to the panel is that we really just don't talk about the challenges as much. I think so many of these meetings turn into woe is Long Island, all of our problems, what our challenges are, and I think most people in this room know. You can touch on it if you really want to, but I'd like to kind of focus on the opportunities more than the challenges and what's happening that's good and what we can do better to do more economic development for jobs. So I'll start. Tourism is so important, and it can be, people think it's all about just visitors, but it really is about the business attraction. Because before businesses will move a business or their employees to a place, they usually have to visit it. They have to like it. And so we're promoting the positive attractions here, the quality of life, how wonderful, how exciting Long Island is. I have a lot of young people in the room. If we're always talking about our taxes and our traffic and no one wants to stay here, how does that motivate people? How does that make people want to be here? So really speaking positively about Long Island is so important. And one of the things I always say is we're working to get a convention center built. And every now and then I have people that say, why do we need a convention center? And I always like to use this event where we can't even hear ourselves because there's a curtain blocking another room. So even if we didn't lure one company from outside of Long Island here, which by the way we will, they love it, they won't come. We can do it just with our own businesses and we desperately need a convention center to do our business here. So that's my thing that we need and we can do. And I'm going to pass it on and let the panelists introduce themselves and say what really about it.
Sure. So I'm Walter Patty, president of ListNet, which is the Long Island Software Technology Network. We work to promote a strong technology ecosystem on Long Island. A lot of times people don't realize what Long Island has in terms of schools. We have top-level schools like Hofstra, NYIT, Stony Brook over here, with strong technology programs. We have trade schools like Under Business School where people can go and take a 7-year course in being a web developer. And these technology jobs are high-paying jobs. Very positive career path. So our goal as an organization is to promote that and help the tech industry grow. That's not just technology companies, but most companies these days have a significant amount of technology.
You don't want a presentation, I mean, just an introduction.
An introduction and one positive thing we can do
Yes, all right. My name is David Spritzer. I'm a professor emeritus at Long Island University. And one positive thing we can do is to create a state employee ownership center that develops and promotes employee ownership, something modeled on the things that have been done in Ohio, successfully in Vermont. We'll talk about it briefly if I get the opportunity, but I think that offers great possibilities. The second thing is really to systematically address what is often called the silver tsunami, the process in which small businesses lack a succession plan, and that involves small businesses then going out of business, jobs getting lost when they could be sold to their workers and maintained on Long Island. I'd like to talk about that in detail also.
Thank you so much. I love having a philosophy professor to kind of break up all the
Oh, I can also talk about the history of Western philosophy and culture if you want.
Well, good morning, all. My name is Patrick Boyle. I'm the executive director of Ignite Long Island. Thank you for saying silver tsunami because I've been using great wave. But very much the same. So I represent Long Island manufacturing. Over 3,000 manufacturers that still exist here on Long Island, 12 different sectors, 78,000 jobs on Long Island are manufacturing based. I want to talk a little bit about, we're not going to talk about our challenges, but I'm going to talk about a solution that we came up to fight the silver tsunami, which is the Long Island Manufacturing Apprenticeship Program. Every manufacturer I go to, they're begging for skilled labor. So we found a solution by partnering with national and regional partners to create Long Island's first manufacturing apprenticeship program. I'll touch on that a little bit later, but that's really my
Good morning. I'm Mitch Pally, Chief Executive Officer of the Long Island Builders Institute. We are the Residential Home Building Trade Association, and every project you heard about this morning is being built by one of my members on Long Island. Our goal and our job is to increase housing opportunities in all different sectors on Long Island to ensure that the people who go to work for Pat's companies and Paul's companies and the universities and our tourism people have a place to live, and have a place to live in a clean and efficient environment. And that place may mean a single-family home for those people at that level, or it may mean a studio apartment for those people who want to start their career on Long Island. And we see the changing nature of Long Island, and we are working with all of our partners and our municipal governments to put housing in places that has never been designed before, like in the middle of the Hauppauge Industrial Park, which we're working with the town of Smithtown now. For too long on Long Island, segregation has been the word, and I don't necessarily mean that from a racial discrimination aspect, although we can always get to go talk to that. On Long Island, we have segregated uses. The retail is in one area, the industrial and manufacturing is another area, and the housing is in a third area. Well, that no longer works. What happens now on Long Island and in many other parts of the country is an integration of uses in the same property, on the same piece of property. And that's what we're working on now in Hauppauge. We're working on it on the Melville corridor. You heard Supervisor Lupinacci mention it this morning about rezoning some of the 110 office buildings that are vacant for housing, or putting housing in the middle of the parking lot. I love cement, because when I can build on cement, I don't have to knock down one tree. It's already been, that the cement is already there, and what better way to put it to make something productive, to put somebody to allow them to live there, rather than see somebody's parking spot in that regard. So those are the type of things that are moving forward on the island. They're very, very exciting here, and I think we'll have an opportunity to talk more about that in a couple of minutes.
It's worthwhile noting, just to underline this point, as I think of as I pass the shopping centers right near my house all the time, that basically there are 6 or 7 parking spaces for every car in the country, because they're there waiting for you to come, but what are they doing when you're not coming? So you take a shopping center and you put a, like I think where I live in Syosset on Southwoods Road, you take a shop and put some people to live there. They can park there in the evening when no one else is parking there.
And you have seen Supervisor Bosworth mentioned it this morning about the Macy's in Manhasset. You go to the Macy's in Manhasset, I've never seen so much cement for parking in my life that is not used. Why not put that to a productive use? They are looking at it. Westfield Mall in the South Shore is looking at it. I live across the street from the Smith Haven Mall in Lake Grove. They're looking at it. So, and there are a variety of other neighborhood retail establishments all across Long Island that can no longer survive the way they used to be, because retail is changing. And if we don't acknowledge retail is changing, I will bet you half the people in this room, when they get home tonight, will have a package on their doorstep from Amazon, right? That's how we all buy. I know, every day in my house. But that has a positive to it. It also has a negative to it. The negative is it is affecting the retail establishments on Long Island. They are having to change, and some of them will not be able to. And so you take a place in a mall or in a neighborhood shopping area and make that, and combine the retail that does work there with residential so that people will live there, so that, as I say all the time, if somebody has to get in the car to get a bottle of milk, we haven't accomplished anything. But you can walk to retail, you can walk to services in all kinds of areas. It doesn't just have to be in a downtown area, although that makes sense. There are many suburban shopping centers where it will make a lot of sense to put retail apartments there, and that's what we're working with our local governments, because of course they have to change their zoning to allow that to happen, and we're working with many of them to try to accommodate that. But that will provide new housing options without having to go to the middle of the Pine Barrens and knock down trees, which nobody wants to do. We love that area, but the other areas we have to make more productive.
We can have strategic growth. It can work in tandem and
Absolutely.
improving it. And I think that what we're talking about here is that it's not just the housing that's changing and the jobs, it's everything that's changing. It's not just retail, it's the way people, look for jobs, it's the way young people want to work. They want to work more remotely, so we don't need as many commercial office spaces. One thing I want to touch back with you on, Mitch, after just be thinking about this is, again, because of the audience here, what we consider, and I say we meaning us old people up here,
Very old
as
people.
affordable,
Not as old as me.
as affordable housing is maybe not necessarily affordable. A lot of the transient housing that we're building for the millennials or now the Gen Zs, when you go in, they're beautiful. They're granite, top of the line, everything. But really, that's not necessarily affordable for this kind of age group that we're looking at. So how are we going to make the density work? And if you want to touch on it now, just
Sure,
give me
well,
a word.
there's three things that affect the value, the cost of an apartment. Number one is the cost of the land, and unfortunately on Long Island, we are an island and we're not making any more land. So all of the really good sites have already been developed. They were developed a long time ago, and many of us live in them, in single-family communities, that if we were starting over today, might not be the way they are, but we can't go backwards. So that reduces the amount of land. That makes redevelopment of existing sites that have already been developed so important because the infrastructure is there, the sewers are there, the parking is there, and everything else around it. The second thing are the taxes, obviously. And that is why the IDAs are so important, because providing a pilot to a residential developer to build these type of units is so essential. It doesn't reduce the amount of taxes the project pays, it just spreads it out over a longer period of time. And the third issue is subsidies. To build a unit at $1,000, I need subsidy money from the state and federal government. The state has been accommodating in that. The counties have even tried to accommodate that. The federal government keeps cutting back on housing funds, and as a result of that, they're no longer there. But when I can combine all three of those, you can bring in apartments at $1,200 a month, $1,300 a month. Now, some people may think that's still too high, but a market rate on Long Island in many places is $2,200, $2,300. So there's $1,000 difference there just by the assistance that can be provided to everyone, and that will start people to start. I say all the time, 80% of the homes, the single-family homes sold on Long Island are sold to people who already live on Long Island. We're not attracting too many people from Austin, Texas to buy my house.
I mean, I moved from Arizona.
Right, well, it is.
Smart move.
Very
Right.
smart.
I think
She's an
so.
outlier. She's in the 20%. But what happens is, when somebody's gonna buy my house, my single-family home that I've lived in now for 35 years, that person already lived on Long Island who's gonna buy my house. But if we don't provide you with an opportunity to live on Long Island in the first place, you're not coming back to buy my house. You may be working in one of his companies, one of Paul's companies already, and you're already at the lifestyle necessary to buy a single-family home. That's why I say to people all the time, the rental communities on Long Island complement the single-family home communities because they increase the value of our homes. And if they weren't here, the value of my home would go down.
What I hear you saying is that we need a pipeline of people
Absolutely.
going in, and so I'm going to transition into the jobs, because we need a pipeline of, young people from the high schools and the colleges going into some of the jobs that we have, and so this is kind of Paul and Pat. Let's talk about that. I mean, there's this pendulum, right? It was everybody needs to go to college, and college is everything, and we love our Long Island schools so much, right? So there's a stigma of people that maybe want to go into more of a trade, and we need to kind of change that, because trade jobs, especially here on Long Island, are really fruitful, and you can make it a wonderful living. But B, how do we, and I'm seeing it, I went to East HM High School for a presentation, and they had the first ever hospitality class. And they had a cosmetology class where you could start getting credits. This, when I read the description of this panel, it said high-paying jobs. And that's a great buzzword, but as we all know, you need jobs at all levels to make a society work, right? So tourism is not always the highest paid jobs, but if you want the CEOs and the businesses, you have to have great restaurants. You have to have people to cut your hair. You have to have the trade. So how are we doing, and what can we do better?
So we're doing okay in some senses. I mean, one of the nice things in the tech industry, they are high-paying jobs, but But a lot of times, young people especially misunderstand that, and they think, well, I'm gonna come out of college, or I'm gonna learn this, and now I have a six-figure job like the next week. It doesn't work like that. You're still starting at the bottom.
Don't forget the VP or president title.
Right, the title as well.
Yeah.
And you have to pay your dues. One of the things that we did is we worked with Hunter Business School, which is a local trade school, and they came to us and said, we have this program that we want to train people on web application development. I said, great, because I know there's a huge need for that. And they came and met with companies that we had in our CEO group and asked these companies, like, what would you look for the students to know? So that was a very positive thing, where the educational institution was actually talking to companies on Long Island and said, what would you want out of this? And the students do a 6-week externship at the end of this program. And a lot of students have gotten a job for this. And some of them have college degrees, some of them don't, and they do career training. And it puts them on a path for a very well-paying career in the future in an area that has a lot of high demand. So I would say one of the biggest things is to have the stakeholders listen to each other. The people providing the education or training, the businesses, and importantly, the one that I don't think we're doing great on is the young people. I don't think there's enough feedback or effort to reach out to the young people and see what they want.
So we have a lot of young people here in the audience, so I'd like to start off when I'm talking. I was sure at this point in my life that I was going to be James Bond, and it didn't work out. But so we go to school, we have these plans, we go away, and a lot of us don't come back. And I know this because I think I'm the youngest person here on the panel. But I was faced when I went away to school. Do I come back home to Long Island? What are the jobs that are going to be here? So, from a manufacturing point of view, here on Long Island, you make $20,000 more. Whatever level of manufacturing you're at, and there's a lot of different levels, you're going to make $20,000 more if you're working here on Long Island. We have, what was the figure? Manufacturing, 9,279 open positions in manufacturing last year that went unfilled because we don't have the skilled labor that we desperately need. That goes back to, and I don't want to talk about negatives, but I'm going to dip into it for a moment because we have solutions. Sabrina Oliver is here, and Sabrina's been running our outreach into our public schools, talking about the great career paths that are open in manufacturing. Unlike many other sections of the country or the world that have one regional industry, here on Long Island we have 12 sectors of manufacturing, be it aerospace and defense, or pharma and nutra, or we're out on the East End, the growers, all the wineries, all the breweries, that's all manufacturing. There's lots of different things to do in manufacturing, and within manufacturing there's a lot of different career paths open to every education. And the manufacturing, we want to hit on this point here, it's not just the folks on the line that are manufacturing employees. That's like 30% of the manufacturing employees. The rest are the administrative folks. So you can go away to college, come back home, and still work in manufacturing, and it's a very, very lucrative career.
It is. There's some really great jobs. I'm going to put the audience on the spot for a second, the young people in particular. I'm kind of scared to ask this question, but let's just do it. How many of you think manufacturing would be something you'd want to do? Right? So,
I was going to mention that actually. When you were just speaking about manufacturing, I feel like as high school students, there's a lot of emphasis placed on the sciences and STEM careers, and they don't place much of an emphasis on the trades, like you were saying before, and careers such as manufacturing. And maybe that's because we're not getting that information. Like, this was great because you're telling me about all of these manufacturing careers that are high-paying jobs, especially on Long Island. You emphasize that they're a lot higher paying compared to other places in the country. And that's great information for me to hear, but I haven't heard that yet. So I feel like, yeah.
I know that too, because I don't recall ever going to high school and talking to anyone about manufacturing. But I think a great thing we're doing now is we're really focusing on STEM education, which I think is really neat. Not for me because I can't do it, but for the smart students, the STEM education is really, really important. And so much of the STEM fields are involved in manufacturing. This isn't I Love Lucy on the chocolate manufacturing line with Ethel, and that's going to go way over the heads of all the young people.
Well, it's similar in my industry too. Like, I just went and spoke to the hospitality class. I have 2 daughters, and I mean, I'm the CEO, right? But neither one of them want to go into hospitality because they're like, people think, who aspires in your life to be a front desk manager growing up? You want to be a lawyer, a doctor, James Bond, Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, whatever. I mean, not just speaking for a friend. But why don't you tell us a little bit about, touch on that subject, if you don't mind.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Sabrina Oliver, and I had the pleasure of working with Ignite and for its manufacturing day, which is the first Friday of every October, and hopefully the goal is to extend it to Manufacturing Month. So there are many things that that are being said that are true, and there are some things, as Paul also touched on, in terms of, you know, the young people are left out. One is, as a young lady stated, I've been in education for more than 20-something years, and you're right. Many are not aware in education what manufacturing is, and that it is a STEM career, first and foremost, and that, you know, that the manufacturing field, as Patrick stated, you know, here on Long Island, there are 12 different sectors. However, as Patrick also pointed out, that if you're into computer graphics, anybody? In graphics, art, you know, you have careers in manufacturing, you know, and so does anyone even know what manufacturing is or what manufacturing does?
I thought I knew, but
But so that's okay too, but manufacturing crosses every sector of business. Somebody's making something that, you know, that you are using, you know, and so that's so very important. And these are careers for females, these are careers for any and everyone, you know, there's a place for you in manufacturing. And I say this for all the STEM careers, including technology. But I just want to end with, Paul, one of the things that you talked about in terms of students wanting, you know, to, I'm not paraphrasing, but let's just kind of think about careers and not just students going into college or students going into trade. But these young people, unlike ourselves, they have more resources at their hands, and they do not have to wait until they graduate to begin their careers. They can start stackable certifications right now. I myself, through also the apprenticeship programs, same with manufacturing, we can put you on a path where we have employers that are willing to pay at least 50% of your college tuition. I have some manufacturers that will pay 70%, some 100% depending, you know, but there are also these other opportunities, but you guys do not have to wait. You don't have to, I'm 50, so you don't have to wait until you get out of college to start making a career. You can actually start earning and learning now in many different ways. You know, so I would just put that to you, but you'll have to ask your guidance counselors to look into it, because to be honest, we have 127 public school districts here in Long Island. That's just the public school districts, and they do not know. You know,
So
and they're not
that's a challenge, right? That's one of the things
Well,
we're hearing.
that's the problem with manufacturing on Long Island, not that manufacturing is the problem. Manufacturing on Long Island used to be, we're gonna work to send a man to the moon. That was manufacturing on Long Island. We had 3 or 4 really large companies, and they were involved in aerospace or space, okay? Now, we have a wide variety of manufacturing companies, many much smaller, with a variety of different needs and different initiatives, and that information is not
This is what it
getting
is. It's
to the people who want to be able to
This
take
is a
those
communication
jobs.
challenge,
Right.
right? And it's not just manufacturing, it's tourism jobs. And I think that, you know, yes, we're not necessarily the typical jobs people go to college to get, but it is a career that you can start with, and you're unbridled as long as you have a strong work ethic and a positive attitude. And for the younger people, you know, flexibility is more important necessarily than having that secure office job. And in something like tourism, you can travel, you can translate that into anywhere in the world that you want to live. And so those things are attractive, and we need to communicate them. So, David, I'm going to get to you, because one of the things I think, since moving here as a transplant, I noticed we do on Long Island, is we try to, when we have a challenge, whether it's communicating, young people, or whatever, we try to just reinvent the wheel. You we need to, not looking outside of the region or, the state at best practices across the country, because let me just tell you, we're not the only people. There's high cost of living in all these other attractive places in San Francisco and Seattle, even affordable places like Dallas and Austin, because of the influx of people moving. They're having skyrocketing rents and they're having challenges. So you talked about a statewide program modeling after someone else has been successful. How do we do more of that to bring those good ideas here?
Well, let me raise a whole different set of
Okay,
issues.
don't answer that.
What's the quality of one's job in the workplace? And and how much do we want to be employees, and to what extent do we want to be quote-unquote owners? Right? There's a whole sense of being self-determining, if Americans want to be self-determining. Well, so we just assume now that it's perfectly comfortable for us to be employees, but an employee therefore is someone who is told by others what to do and when to do it under what conditions. There's the opportunities to develop cooperative workplaces, right, which create different work environments, right, and they tend to be, all the empirical studies suggest, they tend to be actually much more productive and much less turnover and more sustaining, and they can be created. You can create certain kind of cooperative environments. So there are places in the world, for example, Quebec, for example. 25% of its entire economy is a cooperative economy. Emilia-Romagna in Italy, right, or the Mondragon development in northern Spain. I won't go into details about these things. Where you can create a cooperative economies in which which the workers actually are the owners, and which determine the quality of the workplace, and they are not therefore simply employees that are told by management. Now, and it has significant local benefits. For example, the local benefits are worker-owned companies don't pick up and leave. They don't get bought out and go elsewhere, right? So there's and the income that comes into the company from the work, whether it's manufacturing, and there are cooperative worker-owned cooperatives which do manufacturing, but the income that comes in gets really spent back in the community. So it's an economic development item. Now, I'm not saying that the one turns the entire economy over, but we can do much better at developing a cooperative economy which revitalizes localities and which can address problems of underdevelopment, specifically in minority areas. A lot of these cooperative companies tend to be women or minority owned, and it's a good way to begin things. One can begin. But in order to do so, you need support services, you need training, you need the capacity to have the kind of training and job development capacities and financing which is necessary. Those can be provided, as they are in Ohio with the Ohio Employment Opportunity Center, or in Vermont and other states. You can go to websites and check them out and see what they do with respect to education and training, development of networks, support systems. So there are really significant ways, and then you don't have to go, for example, to try and bribe companies to come to Long Island. You don't have to bribe them to stay or bribe them not to leave. Because if they're worker-owned, they're not going anyplace.
Well, let me just
so how do you do that?
Bribing, incentivizing.
Let me just say, and there are two basic ways that you can do that. You can talk about companies that are already existing on Long Island, right, which the workers are already involved, and which the owners don't have a concession plan. So you deal with those privately owned businesses, which are in small businesses usually, which they don't have a succession plan, but they could really successfully transform and sell to their workers. There's a whole movement of that nationally. And then the other thing is there's startups, more complicated, more difficult. Startups are always more difficult, more complicated, but they can be done. And just one example I'll just give you, in Brooklyn, Yes We Can home services, right? And people who clean people's homes. They were employees, minority people basically getting minimum wage, $7 an hour. They created the Yes We Can cooperative. It's gone from small numbers started as about 8 people, it's now over 90 employees. They get over $20 an hour, and they control their own conditions. You can look it up on the website, Yes We Can Cooperative. There are many other examples. The city of New York has been financing the creation of worker cooperatives now for the last 5 years. With money, and as a coordinated program to develop work cooperatives.
Not bribing,
We could be
but
do things.
financing.
We can do things like that on Long Island too. Anyway, so those are another options just to think about as the way we can do job development, address problems of economic deterioration, loss of jobs, community disempowerment.
And I think it's a good point, and I think we are doing that. We see that a lot. Stony Brook University, you see incubators all over, and we have to. It's what we were saying earlier. There's a quote I always say, if you don't like change, you'll like irrelevance even less.
Yeah, but most of those,
You have to change with what is
I
happening.
just want to say, but rarely in any of those programs is there any discussion of cooperative development. That's all. I mean, no development. No, you won't go to colleges, you won't see programs, you go to business schools, you won't see, there is no real public understanding of what is in fact nationally, internationally movement. I mean, I said 1/4 of the economy of Quebec is cooperative development.
But this is a good point. This is kind of what I was saying, is that Long Island tends to always seem to be behind the 8 ball on these things, right? We're always playing catch up with the rest of the country. And I think it's because we try to reinvent the wheel ourselves and not look at best practices and model them. So one of the things I'm hearing about, Paul, and I touched with you on this, is I went to an economic development conference recently, not on Long Island, and they said the #1 industry in growth right now is gaming. Do you hear gaming in any of these discussions? So what is it going to take to get us to be on the forefront of something and be able to do something that gets these people excited about Long Island and make Long Island national news of being innovative?
Right, so I think, some of the older people are disconnected because we had events at our places, and there are young people that are interested in gaming as a career. It's becoming almost like football or other sports. And like my town, Bayshore, the high school team competes nationally. The high school has a gaming league, and they go and do this, and that's tech, but you're not sitting there writing a program. That's one of the things that you can understand. They say these STEM things, and a lot of times students are thinking, oh, I got to learn a lot of math and a lot of science and all that, and it's good, but really, even in the tech industry these days, it's about using tools. You take something like cybersecurity, which there's huge demand for, and you're just going with a toolkit and following a checklist of doing these things. And I'm going to tell you, for you young people, it's going to be easier for you to learn this stuff than an older person because you grew up using these tools. It's not the days of I'm sitting there typing on my computer to make something happen. I'm using all these fancy tools, and they're fun to use, and it almost becomes like a game. So,
Can I ask the question of the young people again? Who would be interested in a career in gaming? No? What do you
Why
guys?
don't you explain what that means?
Well, I think they know
use
what
these
gaming
words,
means.
and I'm not sure people know detail.
Well,
What
let me
are you
ask you a
talking
question. Let me
about?
ask a question. Do you know what gaming means when I say gaming? They know what gaming means. We don't know what gaming means. They
They're the
know.
digital natives.
Right, yes, sir.
Chris, gaming could be gambling, or we talking video gaming.
Absolutely.
Video gaming.
We're talking
Gamification.
technology, video
We're
gaming
talking
as far as the conference that I went to. It's a lot of the individual workers. It's developing games for esports or for video games or technology-wise. So I want to open it up.
I actually think
Go ahead.
a solution to our, you mentioned earlier how we're always playing catch up. I think all of our high schools and education is so hyper-focused on sending students to college, and they're not teaching kids to be innovative or to think for yourselves or to really do anything other than passing these tests and getting to the next level and achieving the next thing, which is very important. However, it's not meant for everyone, and it doesn't teach children to think for themselves. And I think that's a very vital part of the innovation that we've slacked off on, and other regions are encouraging young people to do other things other
And I
than.
think the nuance on Long Island, and I'm just speaking, is that as a parent, I think that, and kids tell me if you're right, is pressure, right? Because as a parent, your parents are like, you know what I pay in property taxes for you to go to these schools? You don't have that if you're in Atlanta or another lower price, we're paying so much for our schools that we expect them to go to college as a result and have these resources. So I think a lot of it is pressure. I saw a lot of heads nod.
And don't get me wrong, college
It's like the
is
parents'
great,
fault. It's not your
wonderful.
fault. It's our fault.
But I think that the focus of education shouldn't be, pardon me, Professor, but it shouldn't be to force these kids into college. It should be preparing them for the next step.
Right.
Whatever that next step
Whatever,
might be.
preparing them for the next evolution. So I want to open it up to questions. So we only have a few minutes, and I'll start with you, Ian.
I'll just throw out a few ideas, and I'll also mention that I was very interested in Lyft a number of years ago, and actually got a bunch of guidance counselors together to all learn about manufacturing on Long Island. I don't know if it really went anywhere, but just to say that I think that is about communication stuff, and I think it's wonderful to have a representative going to schools. I would just say, from my perspective, to try to do more, maybe talk to business clubs, see if there can be an assembly, just really drill it in. I also totally agree with you about just the whole testing mentality, that it's not really encouraging students to be independent thinkers or collaborate. And a third point would just be that Long Island universities, New York State universities, I heard an old statistic probably that 60% of people who attend these universities stay in state. So people to perceive that there's money going into New York State education, it's quality education, that I think will help keep students here.
Thank you. I have this question here.
Well, I also think it's perception. I mean, I'm really glad you said what you did, because when you say gaming to most people on Long Island, they think gambling and they think the Indian reservations. That, okay, I guess that's not something that we can develop. So it's a non-starter before the conversation even begins. And I know, I'm an adjunct at Long Island University. I've worked with students, and actually I attended Smithtown, actually I'm speaking at Smithtown West next week. And there are a lot of other areas. And gaming also does, I mean, Newsday has run a few articles on really great gaming venues that have been here right on Long Island. There are stadiums of people, 30,000 people who do nothing but attend this, and not just once, I mean day after day after day, and it really is an opportunity. But you say stadium of 30,000 people, and half of Long Island's going to say, not here.
Well,
So-
one of the things we're talking about is a convention center that is a multi-purpose venue that could
Yes.
be an e-gaming arena, and the office complex surrounding it, which everyone immediately goes to medical because Northwell has to, you know, has to take over every office. But if you did e-gaming, if you did something that was completely different, innovative, and multi-purpose, wouldn't that be cool?
It would involve a number of levels of different industries.
Yes.
There was also a very good discussion at Smithtown. Actually, they were trying to hire a new superintendent, but that got off on track. And they were talking about a cooperative where, it's almost along the lines of what you were talking about, where there are a lot of small businesses. 95% of all the businesses on Long Island have fewer than 50 people. And of course, you talk about I'm not at the silver tsunami yet, but I'm the next wave. You know, the tsunami goes first through and then the next wave comes.
Yes.
I'm the second wave coming in on tsunami. And it turns out that there are a lot of people who have companies and their kids don't want to take over the company. But there are kids, there are people, younger people, millennials, Gen Z, who want to be entrepreneurs, but they don't know what business, and they don't want to just start one from the bottom up, because that has, you know, a survival rate that's, you know, worse than a flea. So a lot of times, they're thinking now, well, can we put these people together? Can we match up these companies that are looking with students and entrepreneurs who now want to take up, but they want a mentor, they want something with the training wheels on it before they actually move ahead. And I think that might be a good idea
Is
as
there
well.
another question? Yes, sir.
It was more of a comment, I think, what you were saying with the innovation and kind of what you were saying before with entrepreneurship and like colleges. I feel like a lot of people see college as kind of a safety, like I go to this college and then I get a good job and then that's my life. And innovation, I feel like, is more of a risk. So I think we really focused on you have to be safe, and you have to have a good job that pays well, and like that's your whole life. So I feel if you want to focus on the innovation, maybe have a safety net around that. I don't know. That's just the comment.
I think it's a great comment.
I just in general, brief point. I think it's a mistake to think that the way to do education is to train for a specific job. I mean, it changes very quick, and whatever job you get trained for now, probably in 5 or 10 years is outmoded. What you want to get is a full, comprehensive education where you and that, I mean, it's the argument for the liberal arts education with appropriate technical training, but I think it's crucial if you're really going to prepare yourself for a long lifetime, not a short career.
I'll have him call your mom and tell her that, because she's going to want you to have a career. Yes.
Just two quick things. First, kind of rebut. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. I can't see from here. I can't see so well. You know, I understand the idea of liberal arts education. I have a history degree, and I graduated high school 10 years ago. And when I was going through the school system, how important it was to get a college degree. It was the only way you'll make a living on Long Island. Well, the reality of it is my generation, people in their late 20s, early 30s now, they have an $80,000 a year student debt, and a lot of my friends with that student debt aren't even working in the field they got a degree in. So, and, you know, that's part of my question, you know, for all of you is, you know, how did people like, you know, Dr. Robert Dillon and Nassau Boces, who is working every day to try and shake that stigma of there's nothing wrong with going to manufacturing or the trades or anything else. How do we collectively work on that, you know, as a, I guess, a region to try and shake that stigma?
Well, we got to talk about all the different career paths that exist, because heck, a lot of folks don't know about it. We have to talk about how indeed manufacturing isn't Ethel and Lucy on the chocolate manufacturing line. This is very clean manufacturing, very high tech, very technical manufacturing, very high paying jobs. In fact, what was the figure here? Average salary for manufacturing is $83,000. Like I said earlier, $20,000 more you get when you work in manufacturing here on Long Island versus other places in the United States. There's great career paths. We have to talk about it more. And it's tricky though, because like I said, there's so many different types of careers in manufacturing. First, second, there's 12 different industries here on Long Island. It's not like the days where there were only 3 big manufacturers doing what they did, and that was that. It's now a little bit more of a complex conversation. So these are the challenges. Solutions would be getting in front of students.
I just want to agree, I'm on my local school board in Seaford, and some of my fellow school board members don't believe in the trades, and still there's that mindset, it's college first and then whatever, and it's like, that's going to be a real uphill fight for us to try and overcome that way of thinking, because it's been that way for 20 years.
I think as education becomes more expensive,
Right.
there's an opportunity here, and it's marketing. I mean, you know, marketing matters, and when you say, drop that student loan, don't do this, be this person that's actually making money, not going into debt, maybe there's a marketing message there that we need to make it a little bit more sexy than manufacturing jobs. We need to say, don't take that student loan. Don't do it. Just start making money. We need to speak in more of a language, I think, that's
I think that's part of it. I have a friend whose son is looking at colleges. He's looking at one that's like $80,000 a year. And he's going to take on loans. And like, I'm like, are you explaining to your son like what this is going to mean long term? I mean, maybe it's worth it. Like, if you know what you want to do and you're doing it, you're going to go to med school, let's say, or something. You're willing to do it. But a lot of times, I think young people don't realize the impact that. How do you understand what it means to have $200,000 in debt when you're in high school?
What about interest rates? You don't know what that is.
You don't get that, and then you're coming out with this unbelievable burden.
Yeah, but I don't want to get carried away into the political arena here, but that just assumes the current political environment. Those costs in America are not the same costs in Canada or in Europe because of the politics at the national level and the systematic way that we systematically at the federal level do not tax appropriately and do not fund education. That's a political problem. I mean, it's not something intrinsic to the nature of education that it's so expensive. I mean, live in Canada, you can go to McGill University for practically nothing.
world that we live in.
I went to the university, I went to Queens College, and I paid $25 a year, okay? It was free at that time. All right, and it can be done. That's a political issue, and we should understand that, so don't just assume that that's the way it has to be.
I'm speaking in context of what they could do, having the knowledge to make a decision.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's the current situation. You know.
So I was a high school teacher, and we did teach critical thinking, but it was always in the context of going to college. I want to make a point that Ryan Stanton made from the Long Island Federation of Labor last year at this conference, and he said he is burdened, he's a college graduate, works for the Long Island Fed, for the unions. He said, I am burdened with an enormous debt. If I had gone into a trade, a unionized trade, I'd be making $100,000 a year without the college debt.
It's true. Live within your means, kids. You know, I went to Arizona State, okay? And I worked while I went to college, and I came out with $10,000 in student debt, and I paid it off over 10 years. You can do it. You don't always, you have to look at the cost of things, just like I tell my kids, and say, yes, I can have a credit card, and put a bit, can I really afford it? You know what I mean? So, and that's our job as parents too.
Hi, good morning. My name is Jill O'Sullivan. I used to work for some of the big manufacturing companies here in Long Island, Grumman, Eaton, Raytheon, in function of purchasing. And I know that manufacturing on Long Island is something that we should address as vibrant and relevant. Because manufacturing normally gets a bad name. And manufacturing, he mentioned it, that 30% is on the shop floor. That means that's where they take the raw material and transform it into a finished good. The rest of the company has computer needs, marketing needs, sales needs, engineering needs, customer service needs, operation needs. They all need computers, students, they all need IT, they all need web development, they all need systems and database people. So manufacturing is vibrant, and it should be. When I think about, I was hoping Jamie was here, because I've known him for years. I was on the Manufacturing Leadership Council for the United States for many years, and I actually took his wife, I flew her out to Colorado to support what they're doing in their company, and how she, as a woman, was leading that company. I think that we really need to educate counselors about manufacturing. I was able to get Farmingdale State College the P-TECH grant on manufacturing, where we looked at 3 economically challenged high schools, and were able to get those high school students into this path of getting into manufacturing. I'm pleased to say that I am now in academia. I'm the chair of the Computer Systems Department. I have 2 students here with me, Jenna and David, and we're trying to align with industry and inform and create the relationship and inform everyone else, even academics who think there's no manufacturing on Long Island.
And I
It's
think
disgraceful.
and I think a lot of it goes back to communication and the way we market things. I'm gonna get to Gina.
So we're
Because saying vibrant and saying those things are great, but if you're talking to young people in high school, you need to talk money, you need to talk glamour.
So we're having an event
Kardashians
on-
are doing it, everybody's doing it,
We're having an
right?
event on April 24th, we'd love to invite you to. A component of it is e-gaming, esports.
There we go.
Okay, and it's on April 24th, it's called Graham Hack, it's a hackathon, you're all invited.
All right, so if you're interested, talk to her afterwards. Gina, what's your
I have
question?
a comment. I just think that there is a missing link here, and that missing link is really, I think that there needs to be more internships. I mean, I know you were saying something about Smithtown. I sit on the Smithtown Industry Advisory Board. Okay, so my kids, I have one daughter that graduated, the other one's still there. And there is a lack of just knowledge.
Exposure.
Of what these exposure, exactly, knowledge of, if you were to get a job, you will not first think about it unless you actually are there.
Right,
Okay?
and I think that's the biggest problem. And I think that the solution is communication and marketing.
Right, but then also the piece that the schools need to do much more work on is getting you into an internship or even go to a company, let's just say for a day, and doing just a shadow, a mentorship or a shadowing or an internship, something, it doesn't have to be paid.
Right.
It's great if it's
I
paid, if you can do
actually-
an internship, it doesn't have to be.
Right. Over the summer, I actually attended the high school research program at the Brookhaven National Lab. So that was a STEM internship where I had professional experience working in a laboratory on my own research project with renowned scientists in the field.
And now is that what you want to do for a living?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
And that is how I figured that out. I attended that internship with the help of my research teacher, giving me these resources. It's all about taking advantage of them. And at that program, there was also a girl that was doing a project on marketing to young people our age, getting this information out there, not only getting it out there, but portraying it in a way that we understand and that we will take it in and do something with it. Because if it, like manufacturing, for example, that was a big topic of this conference right here. We didn't even know what manufacturing really was until we started talking. How you said 30% of manufacturing is like, you know, the work and, you know, the assembly line, all that stuff. We didn't know that it's, right,
So-
that's just right.
Let me say, by the way, the Long Island Federation of Labor has a remarkable program called Opportunities Long Island, which you can apply for, which is a training program for the trades. It's for the trades. And you can just apply to the Long Island Federation of Labor for that. And they do a training program, and then they really place you in a job, in a union and in a job.
But they don't know that, right? So it's our job to tell them that,
No, it's
right?
not.
They're not gonna go out and
That
see
is the
that.
problem. There's-
And we need to communicate it in a way that's attractive, not just, right,
And then
functional.
once you're in there, I mean, you can spend the day there and look and say, wow, this is awesome.
I wanna say,
Also,
I have,
spend the day there and come out saying,
yeah.
oh my God, I
Right.
absolutely.
I have one
hate
more
this.
question in the back,
I don't
because we're about to wrap up.
It's not for me, so, you know, and I'm just worried, I have to just say what I have to say right now, because like I have, when I was in banking many years ago, I was in banking for 20 years, and I saw the parents coming in for so many years, putting money in bank accounts, saving for their kids to go to college. Then I knew the kids, then the kids come in, and the kids say, oh my God, I want to go to school for this, and they go, actually, okay, they go to school, let's say, whatever, just as an example, I want to be an accountant. Okay? They go, they get a CPA degree, whatever, they come out, they get a job. they're miserable.
Okay, Gina, I know that, I get the message, but we're about to wrap up. So one thing I want to touch on before we do wrap up is we're talking a lot about the talent that we have on Long Island, right? The youth, the talent. But marketing also matters when it comes to attracting talent from off of Long Island. We have to, we have to always be thinking about getting people to move here to keep us vibrant. And something we just did is we started a new marketing campaign with all of the 8 IDAs around Long Island. So did you know that there is not a single Long Island entity marketing Long Island for people to come to bring their businesses here? We're not doing it. We've never done it. All we do is focus on retention and get people to stay here. And so it's important to market not just here on Long Island, but to say, this is why Long Island is attractive. Sure, it's expensive, okay, but we're right by New York City. We have vineyards, we have beaches, we have, incredible schools. This is a place people would want to come to. So we're excited to also make sure that we're bringing that message so that the whole future of Long Island doesn't just rely on this audience, right? We've got to
And it's
look
barely
outside.
working as it is, and
Exactly.
only having that as your fallback when it's not a working solution, it's important.
There was one more question in the back, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, you had brought up Northwell before, and there's something that Northwell does really well, and that's bring students, high school students, in to see different careers. So yes, Spark Challenge being one of their opportunities, where they'll bring students into a play for bioengineering and looking to see how these people are fixing equipment.
That exposure matters.
Right.
I'm gonna have each of the panelists make one closing remark, please, if you don't mind. Let's start with Mitch.
Obviously, in the conversation, the problem with many of us in Long Island is that we weigh school districts by how many kids go to college. So ratings, that's how the value of everyone's determined. We need to change that trend. Make sure that it's more than just how many kids go to college or how many single kids go to college. There's more to the school district than just
I promised Rosalie Draga that I'd present this really quick. The top 10 industries in Long Island where there are women in positions, healthcare and social assistance, 24,000 jobs went unfilled last year. Retail trade, 23,000. Administrative support, waste management, 13,000. Finance and insurance was 11,000. And with manufacturing at 9,000 jobs are open and unfilled because these schools.
I love Long Island.
I would say for the young people, take charge of your future. You can go to college, you cannot go to college. One of the great things about the age of religion is you can research any topic, explore different things, find what you like, do what you're passionate about.
I'll finish by telling